Well, I think that probation will inevitably get involved with more technologies, and I think, as was described earlier this morning, there will be technologies that support rehabilitation, there will be technologies that support monitoring and control, and up to a point, so long as they don't lead to a diminishment of the best that human probation officers can do, that's a good thing. There is an inevitability about it in the sense that we live in a more technological age and probation is bound to be caught up in that, but I think that probation should set itself limits about how far these technologies go, and they should always research everything about it in terms of effectiveness and how the people who have been subject to these technologies are using these technologies. That should always be looked at, and future practice should be designed around what that research evidence tells you. And some of it might be negative, right? Some of it may feel too intrusive, but in the age in which we live, I think it is highly likely that some people under supervision will be positive about having a technological element in their supervision. That's a good question about what new people in the probation service might need to know and think about. And in some respects, I almost feel now at this point in my life that I'm the wrong person to be asking that question to, because probation in many respects seems quite different to what it was when I trained officers and worked as a social worker. But I thought about this question, and I think the thing I most want to say is don't lose sight of social justice, right? So above and beyond the skills you need to help people with difficulty and address the harms that they have done to others, probation officers must engage in campaigns about social justice, because if society stops caring about the people who commit offences and do very harmful things, if society stops caring about them and just becomes more punitive, it becomes much more difficult for probation officers to do supportive work with them. If the penal climate is all wrong, then probation becomes very difficult. So what I learned as a social worker and probation officer is that if you want to do this work, you have to have an eye on the broader picture of social justice. And that's true whether technology is part of the equation or not. Okay, I find that a more difficult question to answer about smart probation, because there is something of the cliche about the word smart, that we attach that word to everything that we want to turn into a more digital form, and that may be smart, it may not be. I think that the technologies in probation would only be smart for me if they helped people to move towards desistance, right? That if they encouraged offenders to be more responsible, and that seems to be the story that we were told this morning about alcohol monitoring, particularly in the Netherlands. It can be used in that way. For higher risk offenders, I have no problem about using monitoring technologies, surveillance technologies to protect others. That seems to me to be a perfectly sensible part of the probation service's mission, or parole if you want to call it that. But mostly I think we should think about technologies that help to support people to become responsible and to desist from crime. And while I do think technology might help with that, it comes down to human skills first, right? I would be very suspicious of anybody who claimed to be able to effect desistance using technology alone.